Martin said, though, that on the hard tyre, it's the hardest of the range of all five.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably low in temperature. And you got to expect the wheels. I mean, that was his... Was it his
first flying lap?
Yeah, so the rear temps are probably not where they need to be.
I don't think you'd expect it to snap as much as that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think when you're in these conditions, especially like, the track is obviously dry, but yeah, it's always the curbs and the white lines you have to watch out for. And it's such a high-speed corner there that once it starts to go, it's very difficult to recover.
Are there also underlying characteristics in the car that make it more difficult to recover that accident? I mean, we're not giving away any secret. It's the slowest car on the grid. It lacks downforce. Does that not help in this situation?
I mean, for sure, the more grip you have, the easier it'll be to avoid those things. But I think it doesn't matter the car you're driving in that situation. If the track's dry and then you put a wheel onto a wet part of the track, a wet strip of paint, then you're always going to get some spin up. And yeah, it'll be quite difficult with these new cars. As I said, once they go, it's very difficult to recover.
And I mentioned Kevin Magnussen. I saw this. See, there's a lot of spray coming out as he went through in the Haas, and back on board now in the Williams.
Look at where Robert is. He's on the white. I don't think he's on the curb.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
it's not really on the curb.
He's not
but
on the
maybe
curb.
he just draws that wet that maybe is laying in the curb onto the tyre. Yeah, it could do.
So, Robert Kubica red flagged the session by having that particular accident. Before that, Valtteri Bottas with a 1:10.8 had the fastest lap. 2/10 clear of Carlos Sainz, who had an impressive morning for McLaren as well. Giovinazzi for Alfa is third. So there we are, curbs and also the grooves on the track, which helps the drainage and certainly enable the track to dry out an awful lot quicker during the FP1 session than we have seen in the past at Interlagos. Romain Grosjean's car in the garage, and he was out on track at the time that Kubica had his accident, and we will restart in about a minute and a half's time. Romain Grosjean currently on course to equal his lowest scoring season in Formula One. That was back in 2014 for Lotus. 8 points only for car number 8, 20 points only for car number 20. Still. Yeah, they've not scored many points recently.
Yeah, you wheel that stat out far too often for their liking.
Yeah, I think I might be able to wheel that stat out in Abu Dhabi as well. I'm not being nasty, but they're just. To start yesterday, said we've had a season whereby our aero has gone the wrong way and we're really suffering for it. What was that dart on the front of the
serpico tube hanging off the front? No, that's. I'm surprised the FIA let that go, really, because you've got an arrow sticking out the front of the car.
Well, they are the silver arrows, so it would make sense.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, if you get another car that, for whatever reason on track, they're close to and he chops across the nose, it's quite. I'm surprised at that.
Coming out onto the track very, very quickly as soon as we get the green light, which is coming your way in 5 seconds' time, will be the Red Bull of Max Verstappen and the medical car, which takes its place on the runoff area from the Senna S's towards the Curva do Sol. So Bottas and Verstappen out onto the track. You see Ted Kravitz down there.
I saw Ted loitering down the end of the pit lane, so he'll have a good view of that dart sticking out.
Yeah. Interesting. So Bottas, the fastest man so far on the hard compound tyre. Long, long way to go in this session yet. So the light goes green at the end of the pit lane, and we're on board with Alex Albon. He and his teammate Max Verstappen are back out there, and well done to the Red Bull crew for getting the rebuild done and by not losing too much time in FP2 to get Alex on track. Good afternoon, Steve Tommy Hex, who says, Nicholas Latifi, why do you want to leave a race-winning car in F2 to go to the slowest team this year in F1?
That's a not so good way to look at it. I mean, for me, my goal's
always beating around the bush there, is it?
I mean, my goal's always been to arrive in Formula One. So for me, at this point, it doesn't really matter which car that is. You know, I'm settled in quite nicely into Williams. I'm really enjoying the team atmosphere there. For sure, the car is not as competitive as the team wants it to be, but you know, I think, you know, next year it can only go forward. So
well, Fernando Alonso did okay in a Minardi, didn't he?
He had a very good career after that.
2 World Championships.
And Germ Online says, did you fiddle with the car to make Kubica crash just to prove to improve your chances for a seat in 2020? F1 conspiracy. I mean, that's appalling that someone would think like that. But is there someone?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
No. Honestly, we have watched him like a hawk throughout the lunch break. He's our property for the next half an hour. He did nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. Nicholas Latifi with us. If you've got a question, hashtag Sky F1. Right, back on track. Max Verstappen did relatively nothing for the session this morning. Came out when the track was dry and then spun.
Yeah, but he's on a very good lap. Now, look, this is where you can see the incline properly. All through the morning I was saying, TV on board doesn't do justice to how much that climb is from turn 12, isn't it, up the start-finish line.
And here comes our mate in the helicab as well.
It's brilliant, the helicopter, man.
He can't keep up with Max. Max is that quick down the straight. 1:10.0 for Max Verstappen. That is a brilliant shot down the main straight. We had a 1:08.8 from Valtteri Bottas as the fastest time last year. And you still see water that's being held in the curves.
But this is where downforce helps. You know, you can see Max, he's still sawing at the wheel, but downforce is a driver's best friend, isn't it?
Yeah,
it fixes everything.
Yeah, any inherent car problems you have, and you have more downforce, it just kind of gets rid of them.
Lewis Hamilton's about to go for a lap. Nicholas, take us through a lap of Interlagos.
Okay, so coming turn 1, braking around the 50 meters. It's quite downhill here into the Senna S's, which you don't get the impression of on the onboards. Through the left here, easy flat out. Obviously trying to avoid the curb and the white line as they're still holding some water. First DRS, well, second DRS zone. Yeah, braking will be just before the 50 meter, around 60. Probably caught off guard a bit by the traffic there, but yeah, just this corner flat out as well. Coming into the fastest corner of the track now. He's arriving in 7th gear. He'll hold 6th. Hoping just kind of keep the car within the limits there. First really slow corner on the track. Downhill again, positive camber, so the track's banking into the apex. This one's quite an easy one to lock up the inside front just because the track drops away as you turn in. So again, nicely held the apex there. This corner now is quite easy flat out as well in dry conditions. Coming back up the hill to the last corner. Important to get a very good exit as it leads onto a very, very long straight. So I'm sure he was a bit worried going on the curb there as it's still holding the water, but managed to hold it quite well. And yeah, just press the DRS now and travel as little distance as you can to the line. You see he's not releasing the car all the way to the exit.
And goes a 10th quicker and into the 109s as well. It's about a 15-second blast from Junsao, which is the junction corner, all the way up to your braking points into the Cenares.
Noted.
It's Portuguese and Spanish. We always get confused.
Yeah.
And you're taking the Spanish pronunciation.
I apologise.
Just before, Mike Dawson, who is a long-time F1 journalist, sends in a text message. For years, he has criticised my Portuguese. I'm trying to save you from Dawson.
Downshift's very, very aggressive, very poor.
It's interesting watching that lap as Nicholas was talking us around with Lewis, just how many changes he makes on the steering wheel. You can see the little rotary switch that he uses his left thumb. At the moment he's changing the upshift settings in terms of the shifts, the revs basically, the way they do the shift strategies. But I noticed on his quick lap he was changing the brake migration nearly at every corner. That, for people at home to understand, when the driver first hits the brake pedal, they get a brake balance of whatever he's preset. So I think it was at 57. But as he goes through the braking phase and his foot's coming off the brake, it adjusts electronically the brake balance between the front and the rear. And it was interesting how much Lewis plays with it, because, Nicholas, this is a circuit where you've got a lot of camber in the road, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got one wheel sort of unloaded at a lot of these corners, and adjusting that brake balance for the sweet spot is massively important.
Yeah, I think it's all specific to the individual driver's nice feel. Yeah, this track for sure will be one of the tracks where playing with the brake migration. I mean, many different teams will call it something different. But yeah, it's a very unique tool, and for me, it's probably one of my favorite tools to use in Formula 1. Something we don't have in Formula 2, where it's just kind of set throughout the whole braking phase.
So how often do you make adjustments then over the course of a lap? I mean, today was a bit difficult because it was wet.
Big snap there on the end for you going through, isn't it?
Yeah,
that was an odd one.
Well,
the back end stepped out quite early.
Very early.
He's done well to realise that the corner is not going to be made, and the apex is not going to be his friend there. Let's actually go trackside once again, because Martin Brundle, I would imagine, saw that with his very own eyes and was probably wincing for Pierre as it happened in front of him. Martin.
I've actually moved around now to the pit lane exit, the exit of turn 3. We can see back up to what Karim was talking about, the cascading down the hill through the Senna S. The way they release off turn 3 is with extraordinary speed and poise and grip and the balance of the car. So once they get the downforce building, then everything's just working beautifully through here. But you can see the pit exit up there on the right-hand side of the Senna S, and it's really quite a tortuous route that ends up as we've got a Mercedes of Hamilton going very slowly, presumably just letting people, we got, a slow car light there, flashing, the white light flashing. There's a box right down here at the end of the pit lane where they do practice start. Charles Leclerc just came through there. I don't know how he got through the gap between that start box and Lando Norris, and the pit wall and the barrier there, flat out. I winced, I jumped out of the way, I was convinced there was going to be an accident. He threaded the Ferrari through there with total confidence. I'm just going to show you if anybody does come out and with their practice start, what's been doing one here, then we'll just follow it through. But at the moment, everybody's out on track, desperate to get some laps underway. But what's been standing out to me here as they practice their starts, and of course the grid here, the first part of the grid sweeps downhill, then it's got a hollow in the bottom, and then the back of the grid is facing downhill. So it's a very unusual grid topography. So this is not really very representative. But what's been standing out is how few revs they put on to get the car away. Drive away like they're leaving the supermarket. We've got a Haas coming down here, but it's going straight out onto the track, absolutely flat out. I'll throw back to you, Crofty. We'll move on.
Yeah, we couldn't get a message to Romain Grosjean to get him to stop. Next time we'll do that. Thanks ever so much, Martin, for that one. That's the sky is above Interlagos, Johnny, where chance of rain. Is that showers coming in, or is that showers bubbling up?
I was just saying, it sort of threatens every 180 degrees where we're looking across to the paddock. But one thing I wanted to pick up was about that brake balance.
Starting to spit a little bit.
Okay, copy.
Yeah, on the brake balance changes that we have nowadays.
Yes.
And it's, I remember Michael Schumacher sort of, I think, kicking off this trend that we have today. He adjusted it even when we had the manual brake balance, but then he went to the steering wheel, and I know he used to use that a hell of a lot every single lap, qualifying or even in the race as well. And another guy that sort of led what we have today with the two pedals we have in the cockpit, for me, was Mika Hakkinen. Remember we spoke about this when we were at Lotus in '91, when we still had the stick shift, and we didn't have a electronic shift until about 92, 93. But that led to the two pedals that we've got today. It was Mika, I think, and Michael in the brake side that sort of led to what we've got today.
It's such an important thing, isn't it? Because the feel and the balance between your feet and the steering and your hands as you go into the corner, that just sets you up, isn't it? That first phase. I always find with that first phase when you hit the brake pedal, you know through your bum and your hands and your feet what you got underneath you, and then you've got the confidence to come off and carry your speed in.
Yeah, exactly. The braking is really the most important phase of the corner. You know, whatever you do on the entry of the corner is going to affect the middle and the exit. So entry starts with the braking. So whatever you can do to have a better feeling on that. It's all individual to the driver, but yeah, it's a big part of the confidence.
Elliot Hancock, as we just see Kevin Magnussen with Max Verstappen behind him, and the Williams of George Russell in front of him, and well, Max decides he's going to go around the outside of 2 cars there. Sorry, Alex Albon in one fell swoop.
It's just a misunderstanding,
wasn't it?
Yeah, misunderstanding. I think he didn't realise Kevin was going to get out of the way till Kevin did. Just a bit of a misunderstanding there, but yeah, got away with it.
At least he did. Elliot Hancock says, Nicholas, hello. How does the Formula 2 car compare? Not so much the power differences, but how you need to build up a lap and how to drive it more aggressively or more calmly.
Yeah, so irrespective of the power, I mean, it really is a big difference. It's probably too big a difference considering that Formula 2 is the closest thing you could drive next to Formula 1. But I mean, the way you set up the lap and prepare the lap is all very similar. I mean, Pirelli tires is the same kind of thing. You're going to have much more grip at the beginning of the lap as you will ending the lap. But yeah, just the overall downforce you have and grip that these new generation Formula 1 cars have is really impressive. So everything from how late you can brake to how much mid-corner speed you carry, how aggressive you can get on the throttle, it's all such a big step. And then on top of that, all the electronics you have to deal with on the steering wheel if you want to make changes during the lap.
You may see some spots of rain on your visor, but there's nothing serious around at the moment.
Yeah, so it really is quite a big change.
Excellent. And how long did it take you to learn the steering wheel?
I'm honestly not too long. I mean, realistically, when you're driving, there's only so many buttons you're using or that are relevant for you to use when you're doing a hot lap. I mean, a lot of the extra stuff, let's say, is stuff you might be doing on button. I mean, I think all the cars have one, and it just kind of overrides whatever engine setting you're in, and it just gives you the full deployment. Yeah, obviously, if you're going to overtake or defend. Yeah. In terms of handling, yeah, I would say probably the diff changes are the biggest ones. So, most cars you have the option to change how the differential handles on the entry, middle, and exit of the corner. So again, whatever your preference is, whatever phase of the corner you're struggling with, you can either make the car understeer a bit more, so less front grip, or oversteer to try and get a bit more rotation.
Thanks, Nicholas. We'll just interrupt from the commentary box here. Ted, what's going on at Red Bull?
A weird situation where they can't get the new front wing on. Max Verstappen
we saw them in the pit lane struggling a bit.
Yeah, so Max Verstappen came in. They had a new front wing which they wanted to trial. The testing still going on at pace down here, and they couldn't get the new one seated, or the different one, I should say. They couldn't get the new front wing seated, strangely. And now they're inspecting the holes that the stubs go in. The studs going from the wing into the monocoque, and trying to figure out exactly why the new front wing wouldn't go on. Weird. You don't see that one very often.
No, you don't. Certainly not at a team like Red Bull. Yes, there's a lot of men looking into that at the moment, quite literally. Whilst we're on board with Daniel Ricciardo, you can see it spitting on the camera lens. Not enough, I would imagine, to upset the drivers at the moment, but they won't want it raining much heavier, I would have thought, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, on the hard tyre, that's the biggest problem, actually, because the temperature will just plummet on the, as soon as you get the harder compound. If you were on the soft or the medium, it's less of a problem, but you see Daniel in the middle sector just really scrambling for grip. I mean, they're clearly doing their race prep at the moment right now, down in 15th and 17th on the harder tyre. It was interesting, Bottas, I noticed earlier, was on the hard tyre at the same time Lewis was on the medium, and his time was obviously 6:10, so that gives us an idea of the delta between the medium and the hard.
That's better. They found the right Allen key down at Red Bull. They managed to get the front wing on. Superb. Rob Wainfor says, Nick, when you drive someone else's car in practice, do you feel like you're under pressure not to make any mistakes? Because it's like, it's not your car, you're borrowing it. And are you holding back, and do you drive at like 80% instead of 100?
Yeah, it's one of those difficult things when you're standing in as a Friday driver. I mean, for sure the last thing you want to do is crash the race driver's car and potentially compromise their FP2. Maybe if you're driving with a race engine, a race gearbox, if you crash it, you could give them a penalty for the race as well, which I have happened. I have been driving with a race engine and gearbox in previous outings I've done. So yeah, I mean, you're definitely not, well, at least for me, I'm not pushing 100% on the limit just because I'm not driving these cars full time. So each time I get back into it, I kind of have to acclimatize back and kind of build up sensibly. There's certain tracks which you can afford to push a bit more, where you have a bit more runoff. Paul Ricard, when I did the FP1 there, for example, there's almost nothing to hit. You got to try very hard to hit a wall there.
True.
My first FP1 I did with the Team Montreal, there's obviously a lot to hit there. It's pretty much a street track, so it's kind of just weighing up, how comfortable you are with each track, and going from there.
Is that the race you're most looking forward to for next season? So if you get the drive, not when you get the drive, are you most looking forward to Montreal?
Yeah, obviously, if I was to drive an F1 full-time next year, the home Grand Prix would be the most exciting one to look forward to. I mean, just getting the experience to have taken part the past 2 years in the FP1, it's something really unique for me, because most of all my car racing career I raced over in Europe, and most of the guys I race against are European. They all have a home race, so it's something a bit more normal to them. But yeah, these 2 years, every time I've gotten the opportunity to go there in Canada.
Is rain still falling? Is rain falling?
Yes.
Yeah, every time I've gotten the opportunity to drive in Canada, it's just something really surreal. You have a big smile on your face pulling out of the pit lane. You really feel the energy of the crowd, and yeah, it's just something really amazing.
Have you ever raced in Canada?
In cars, no. I mean, most of my karting career was done in North America, so mainly in Canada and the States. But yeah, no, I've never done any car racing in Canada.
I had one experience of driving my teammate's car back in 91, 92, if I remember now. Mika Häkkinen's car at Silverstone, because on the way into the circuit, he was a bit late. He was passing the traffic on the wrong side of the road in Silverstone Village. He got stopped by police, he got arrested, he got taken down to the police station, so I had to drive his car in the morning warm-up to just sort of give it a bit of a run-in. It's quite a funny story, but it got very annoying for me, because I went 4/10 faster in his car than I did in mine.
Did you swap for the race? Did you just keep it for the race?
I wanted to, because obviously he wasn't coming back, or we didn't think he was coming back.
You could have borrowed your teammate's car in Benetton. Oh, you'd have been so much better.
Oh, that wouldn't have happened.
Big lock-up for Nico Hulkenberg there. I'm just imagining a member of the Northamptonshire Constabulary. So, excuse me, sir, who do you think you are? Mika Häkkinen?
Didn't that happen to Senna? I remember reading that years ago. Senna got stopped at the M25, and the police officer went to him and said, "Who do you think you are, Nigel Mansell?"
Close. Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, look at that. That's proper dentistry drill. So we kind of had a bit from Lando, didn't we, about the throttle pedal, kind of feeling like it was a bit stuck. Maybe something's rubbing on Carlos Sainz's car there as well. We'll send Ted down to McLaren in a little while. Nicholas, we have to let you go now. We're in 2 seconds.
The rain is getting a bit heavier now and affecting grip.
Because apparently, if the rain is getting heavier, you need to be back in hospitality, otherwise your hair just goes all frizzy in this sort of weather. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I really hope that we don't see you in the commentary box next season, but we do see you in a car in the pit lane.
Appreciate that. I hope so too.
And on the track. Nick, thanks ever so much. Absolutely brilliant to have you with us today. Right, Ted Kravitz, are you down at Mercedes?
Yeah, check out this needle, Pito. So it's not a sort of Dick Dastardly device for if somebody gets close to Lewis Hamilton and you can puncture his tyres. It's it's an airspeed or a ground speed, you should say, pitot. So it's an air tube. It's an air measuring device. These pitot tubes. You don't know what they are. It's quite unusual to have them sticking out the very front of the car. But it's there to measure pure airspeed. Obviously, you can see just above the mechanics' heads by the number 44. Mercedes cars already have the 3 pitot tubes that normally deliver the car's airspeed. We can call it airspeed. And I'm just wondering whether they wanted, for some reason, to have a more pure read from the very front of the front wing like that than the 3 pitot tubes that were stuck above the driver's number. Interesting positioning. Anyway, they've learnt what they need to, and as you can see, the mechanics are now dismantling. But I'll pop down to McLaren and see exactly what bit of metal they were grinding down there. Carbon doesn't spark, metal does.
So metal does, yeah, it's a good tip. Thank you, Ted. Right, Sebastian Vettel has the fastest time on the board at the moment. He's 2.5 tenths clear of Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton nearly 4 tenths back, with Max Verstappen on track at the moment, currently 4th fastest. and all on the medium or the hard compound tyre at the moment. Medium tyres for the top 5, and Verstappen doesn't improve on his time. Valtteri Bottas on the hard compound tyre, so he's a second off Sebastian Vettel. Probably expecting the delta to be here. It's a short lap, Karoon. 8/10 would be a bit of a guess, hard to medium.
Yeah, I think 6 to 7 tenths is probably what we're looking at. As you say, it's a relatively short lap. I mean, in theory, on paper, and I know you like the official corners, there are 15 corners, but as a driver, really, you've got probably 7 or 8 real corners on the lap here. So it's only 7 or 8 opportunities where the tyres are going to make a difference in terms of lap time. So yeah, 6, 7 tenths.
See, the corners, I know turn 14 and 15 are absolutely flat out, and they're not a corner for you, but it's just if someone crashes there.
No, I understand that. I understand. Same in turn 3, for example. Exactly. We saw Robert crash, which you wouldn't normally count, but
active braking is not good.
Not the first time he said that this year, Max Verstappen.
No, but I think we've always heard sort of similar sort of complaints from Lewis Hamilton, haven't we? Sort of on a Friday session. I think they're just going through the motions, trying to get themselves where the car is reacting how they want it. I'm sure they'll be trying a few different settings, and obviously that's not working for Max.
Yeah, they have to do a lot of mapping work, of course. Yeah, we have to remember that this is the first time Red Bull are here with Honda, and this isn't a track that they come testing at, and obviously they've got simulations and simulators to optimize things, but you have to get the mapping right. And engine braking, to explain for anyone who doesn't know, is the amount of engine overrun that the drivers get on corner entries. So they get a bit of support from the rear end to just stabilize the rear of the car on the way into the corner.
So Honda would have had experience here with Toro Rosso last year, but the Toro Rosso is a very different car to the Red Bull, of course.
Yeah, the level of downforce and the entry speed, therefore, that the drivers are taking into the corner is completely different. You know, they're in a Red Bull, they're arriving at the apex a good chunk faster than they would in a Toro Rosso, and you've got to tune the mapping accordingly.
Is this an easy track to drive, Johnny, in terms of can you pick it up very quickly?
I think it's quite a tricky one of the most difficult ones I think we have on the season, because it's just so technically difficult. And when I say technically, it's more to do with how you've got sort of turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3 dropping away from you, trying to get the car to sort of change direction. You're okay when you get to turn 4, although it drops down to the flat out turn 5. But of course then you've got that high downforce balance you need at turn 6 and 7. But when you go over 7, it's almost like a little sort of yumpy, bumpy braking going into 8. So you've actually got to try and stabilise the rear end to turn in for 8 as well. That goes down to what Nicholas was talking about with the diff changes that they do as well. That will be where they will be changing all those settings that they have to try and get a better.
So we're waiting for some drivers to appear on the soft compound tyre, and as I say that, George Russell is out on the soft tyres in his Williams, and we can welcome to the commentary box another young driver, maybe a champion in the making. After Nicholas Latifi, bring in Damon Hill.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah.
What are you doing
on
a Friday? You don't know
I'm doing research, Herbert.
Research?
Yeah, I'm soaking it all up, like all these people are. They're learning, they're getting information for the race, and they're maybe even learning stuff for next year.
Can I first of all congratulate you on surviving the 25th anniversary this week of when that naughty German crashed into you and robbed you of the title?
Well, that's correct. It was 25 years ago. What was a couple of days ago to the date.
We worried about you. You tweeted a lot about it, and we thought you were going to get lost in a sea of melancholy.
My many fans and supporters, David, have reminded me that it was 25 years ago, so I thought I'd join in. And also had a few comments of my own on the situation. Nothing changes. Every time I look at it, it's the same result. And there you have it. Although, interestingly, if he hadn't have won the title that year, then Lewis Hamilton would be equal to Michael Schumacher on titles. There's an interesting one to ponder, but absolutely pointless because it's not going to happen. He has to go one more and to get that 7th to equal Michael Schumacher.
You really should work Fridays more often. Gives us 2 extra days to actually decipher what he means by all this. No, it's very true, though, isn't it? I mean, yeah. Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, well, they could be equals. If some buts and maybes, Hamilton, you know, back in 2007 could have been world champion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it didn't happen.
If I'd gone a bit faster, I'd won a lot more races as well.
There is that. Do you want to talk vortices? Look at those.
Oh, they're lovely, aren't they? They're different to what we've been used to seeing. You remember they used to go off in a little twirly, beautiful kind of like a twirly thing. They've got
like
that step.
They're still twirling.
They're twirling, but there's a bit more of a step to it, isn't there, with the different shaped wing end plates. I'm getting very technical.
The idea is with the 2021 regs, Karun, correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably will be, that those vortices actually will go out a lot further and wider of the car, so you can actually get in the gap in the middle.
It's more the vortices off the front wing that they're trying to get out further outwards. The rear one they're trying to get go higher, so the car behind doesn't get affected as much. They're trying to push it up into the air, and then the theory being the car behind with their front wing right behind will be affected by half as much as it is today, so hopefully racing and overtaking should be better.
Stephen Lloyd-Bowen, who is listening intently here, says, Damon Hill, do you feel that 1994 was the greatest season of your career in terms of your performances on the track? Hang on 2 seconds.
Tyres weren't ready. Copy. So the option runners were quickest at the end of the lap, so this could well be this lap or the next one.
So it might need a bit more time to bring them into the window.
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, as far as stress and the level to which I had to go to get the results, definitely 94 was a tough one. What with Imola as well, you know, emotionally it was very difficult. A lot of stress, and I found myself in a title fight when I probably wasn't expecting to be. You know, we thought that Ayrton would be around, and so it was a tough year. 94 was a tough year. And it doesn't get any easier, you know, they keep on coming. And but 96 was, I won't say it was easy, but it was less stressful in many ways than 94 was.
Yeah. When did you, and I don't know if you actually did think this, when did you stop thinking to yourself, if only if I'd have just waited a couple more corners, if only I'd have had a little bit more patience, I'd have been champion? Did that ever come into your mind after the event?
Well, what day is it today?
Friday.
Friday. No, let me think. It's pretty well. I mean, I never think like that, to be honest.
No.
It happens.
Because you are the most optimistic person on the planet.
You know, you can't change it, as we just discussed. You can't go back and say, oh, if I just waited. I did not know that Michael's car was damaged. It turns out it was. Thanks to YouTube, we can watch it over and over again.
How many times do you watch it? How often do you watch it?
My children discovered it, didn't they? So they go back and why didn't you wait, Dad? You know, sort of thing.
But it's the key, Damon, isn't it? You didn't know he'd hit the wall.
No, I
didn't know he was damaged.
No, so I did what I thought I had to do. But given that he was pulling away from me prior to that, I thought, well, I can't let him get away again. So went for a gap, and it was a closing gap.
One quick 94 question from Finn Strang, who says, how much better was your Williams at the end of 94 compared to when you first got in it that season?
Yeah, it improved. Don't forget that they chopped all the aero off after Imola. They actually went to the cars with a hacksaw and chopped all the diffusers off, so everyone had cars that weren't properly designed for the amount of downforce they had, so we all had to adapt. But I mean, every year you improve. Cars get up to 2 seconds a lap quicker from the beginning of the season to the end of the season anyway, but probably not the case in 94 because, as I said, we lost all that downforce.
Right, it's down to 10.
At Max Verstappen's car, where they're having a little issue with the DRS. That's the drag reduction system, the movable rear wing. And it wasn't working, but now they fired the car up, and after a small adjustment, they proved that it is working. It doesn't work with the cars turned off, of course. You need to have pressure and hydraulic pressure, because that's how it's actuated. But Verstappen's still stuck in the garage. They need to put the side back on the DRS fairing, the little bit of carbon fibre shroud either side of it. There's no sign of doing that at the moment. Alex Albon just about to go out as well. Quick weather line for you guys. You know when it's about to rain, it suddenly gets a lot colder and the wind picks up?
Yes.
Yeah, that. So I think anyone who's been sat in the garage and might get caught out by a little bit of a rain shower. I don't know. I can see various bits of blue splotches on weather radars across the pit wall down here. Crofty. I don't know what your intel on the weather says.
No, at the moment, we can actually see a lot clearer way over yonder than we did 10 minutes ago. I'll keep you posted. Raikkonen goes 5th fastest. Johnny and Karun getting very busy on the track at the moment. Both the Mercedes are out now with the soft tyres as well.
And Sebastian Vettel, I've just seen heading out, as well as Charles Leclerc. So all the heavy hitters are now out, apart from Max.
Roman Grosjean went very wide though, Johnny did very well actually to hold it. At least keep one wheel on the tarmac.
That was so super wide, I have to say. But the confidence was there. He kept his foot in, and luckily for him, he was able to sort of drive off of that curve back onto the track. But you've got to test the limits of the track and see what the car, what the curves will do to the handling of the car.
Bottas has started his lap, and Hamilton is just coming past our commentary box into the centre. So really, we want to be seeing the two Mercedes drivers now. We can have a look at Grosjean having a bit of a run. Well, it wasn't too bad. It didn't really unsettle the car. Watch his hands.
But it was still it was still damp, wasn't it? Still spray.
But his hands, he didn't have an oversteer.
It was the end of the lap where I'm really worried about Grosjean.
Yeah, that's very well.
This one here. As he went wide.
So Carlos Sainz has gained 3/10, Crofty, on his set of soft tyres compared to the mediums.
Sebastian Vettel just blitzed the first sector of 17.8. Here is Hamilton making his way through Pico de Passo, the right-hander, and dropping down as you do.
His teammate in the way.
Very much got in the way.
Oh, he's not happy about that, Lewis, is he? He's got a yellow flag at sector 1 for some reason. So Bottas getting in Hamilton's way. The yellow flag is now clear, but here comes Vettel now, coming up towards the Junsao. And very, very important to get a good run. Oh, the Mercedes are getting in the way.
That's Bottas twice. Bottas 2, Vettel Hamilton 0, I think, is the pool's results on that one, and he very much did get in Sebastian Vettel's way, who I think had to lift before then anyway. Now, I would imagine, Damon, these tyres will be good enough for another run today. Danny Kvyat spun at turn 1. That was why there was a yellow flag in sector 1. But we'll see a replay here going through Maguglio, the dive. Valtteri Bottas was not exactly going up in his teammates' estimations. Here's Kvyat spinning.
That was a fairly undramatic spin. He wants to get out of that position. That's why we have the yellow flag, but back over the other side of the track where it was all happening with Bottas. Here we are on board. Just a little bit too much entry speed. Obviously, they're pushing with a soft tyre. They're trying to get a time, so that's...
So here we go. This is Lewis Hamilton on board with Dome.
Whoa! Ooh, that was a little bit...
Valtteri was just sitting there.
Okay, copy loose.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this isn't part of Valtteri Bottas's new book of plans.
Yes,
to take on his teammate.
Being aggressive, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, he did it again to Vettel a corner later.
Yeah.
Very strange, because he just, as Lewis said, he kept dawdling on the racing line, didn't he? Both
It's one of those things we all know that you look in the mirror, actually you can't see what's coming around that corner at all. So to actually sort of be on the racing line, you sort of think, well, to be in the middle.
Darren Buckley at #SkyF1 says, what is Valtteri Bottas playing at not once but twice? Should be getting penalties for both incidents.
I'm not a big fan. I mean, everyone makes these mistakes sometimes. You know, I think that it was a bit of a dodgy move there, because that is a very fast left-hander, and not easy to take avoiding action when he wasn't even well over to the right. He was sort of in the middle of the road a little bit, which was he should have been aware of that. I agree, but we'll let him off that one, and he'll probably get a bit of hot ear from Lewis from that.
Leclerc's on a very strong lap, by the way, so we didn't see the best from Lewis or Vettel. This was Vettel getting both there. You can see up ahead, there's Valtteri on the line. And yeah, Vettel's had to back out of it. So in the meantime, Leclerc's gone quickest, Crofty. So he found 4/10 on his set of soft tyres. Vettel has started another lap. He's matched
his teammate in the first sector, so hopefully we'll see a bit more of the Ferrari, the other Ferrari, in a few moments. Going quickest to the middle sector, Valtteri Bottas. Now he stopped dawdling. Here he is, flat out through the final part of the track. And goes second fastest, 10th off Charles Leclerc.
Sort of on a sort of second lap for him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I know this track is quite punishing for a one-lap soft tyre as well, so it's not a bad.
But it's a short lap as well.
It's a short lap, but all these different undulations and high-speed corners you got, it doesn't load up the tyre a lot.
Sebastian Vettel on his second flying lap, 2 100ths clear of Charles Leclerc. Both Ferrari drivers saying this week, don't worry about Austin. We'll be back to where we think we should be. You know, there'll be no problems with our pace. And we're seeing that this afternoon.
Interestingly, Crofty, he was 4 thousandths faster than Leclerc in the middle sector, which shows that the tyres, you know, to answer your question you asked Damon earlier, the tyres are hanging on for a second lap. Because he improved in the middle sector where the tyre grip is vital.
Now, as Hamilton had a lock-up going into turn 1, or has he found another car in his way? He's found the Toro Rosso in his way this time around. If it's not Valtteri Bottas, it's one of the Toro Rossos, and this is Romain Grosjean with Pierre Gasly ahead of him. And they're properly racing, and we like a bit of properly racing. Go on, Romain, you can do this. Get your elbows out, son. Lovely. That was pretty good. They do that in the race on Sunday. I'll be getting very, very excited indeed, as I'm sure will Martin Brundle. Martin, where are you at the moment?
I'm down at turn 4, Crofty, on the inside. I think we missed the main firework display when they were really going for it. Super impressive in here. Keep an eye out as the racing point comes through. And if they go wide, they spark like crazy on the curve through the exit. Daniel Ricciardo, next man through there. And they committed here. And what it doesn't really stand out, as we see Hulkenberg now on his way in the Ferrari yield. Doesn't really stand out until you're down here. It's actually uphill into the braking zone, and then you crest just on the way in to this turn 4, and then it starts sweeping downhill again, which is when they start losing a bit of grip. There's no doubt about it. The Mercedes has got a stronger rear end, stronger grip on it than the Ferrari. They're all carrying amazing speed through here. But the Mercedes just sits down, looks a little bit more comfortable, and squats and is ready to go. The Ferrari floating slightly. So I suspect Ferrari is still making up a bit of time in the straight line as much as anything. That's how it looks on this particular corner anyway. And the cars are so beautifully behaved. You can see how they're braking, the stability they've got. They just blend the car towards the apex and pick up the throttle beautifully, and off they go. I mean, it must be magnificent to drive. Must be that feeling of balance, of grip. But the cars are actually so good down here. I think there's only 20 people in the world can totally appreciate how good they are, and they're driving them, of course. But it just suddenly lit up as soon as they were doing those fast lap times. The corner literally lit up in terms of commitment, speed, throttle application, fireworks from underneath the car as Bottas flies through there now. I can smell the cars burning. The underneath of them, Max Verstappen giving it plenty through the exit, kicking up a bit of spray as well as the plank hits the ground, the skid blocks hit the ground, the wind's blowing slightly this way. It's stopped raining here now. It was raining quite hard 10 or 15 minutes ago. Over and out, Crofty, back to you.
Thanks, Martin. Brilliant to have you trackside as ever. We'll see you back again tomorrow. Max Verstappen is giving it plenty.
He's on a very good lap. I think the middle sector is going to be strong here. That front end hooked up really nicely around those hairpins. Look at that, purple, fastest of anybody in the middle sector. But this is where the Achilles heel of that Red Bull Honda package could be, the run up from Junsao uphill steeply.
Do you think they've not got the power in a straight line then?
I don't think so. You know, we've seen it. Yeah, he's dropped, you know, a 10th, which I know it's only a 10th, but he, you know, he didn't equal himself.
He's not made a qualifying top 10 speed trap this season, Max Verstappen, which might back up what we're saying there as well. Lewis Hamilton is crossing the line now for his best lap, but only good enough still. 5th fastest for Hamilton, 1:09.4. Ted, down to you.
At Ferrari, David, where sorry, Crofty, where Sebastian Vettel has said he's had enough of of the soft tyre qualifying run. And another example, I think, of Vettel kind of directing operations down here. I think his engineer, we just heard a team radio message, his engineer said effectively, do you want another go? Seb said, no, I don't need it. I know what I can do on low fuel, on these tyres around the circuit. Let's get into the long runs now, because I think that's more important. And that just goes to this tyre management of Ferrari, how it didn't work for them at Austin last time round, how they were just, made to look slower than they feel they were in the race for various reasons. Obviously, Vettel didn't do most of the race because of that suspension failure that he had, and Leclerc's engine was down. But now those both things have been fixed. They're keen to make amends, and step one of that is getting the long run pace delivered and sorted out right now in this session.
Well, Johnny and I spoke to Matteo Binotto after the race, Johnny, and remember when we put that to him, he was 52 seconds behind Leclerc from the winner. And he was quite defensive, wasn't he? He said, no, it was all lost in the first stint on the medium tyre. They felt they couldn't switch the medium tyre on. We saw Seb struggling as well. And maybe that's the point, probably, is he wants to get the long runs. We've got to step harder on the tyre compounds here. Yeah. They want to make sure they can switch the tyres on in the Grand Prix.
Which they obviously didn't, David, at the starts in Austin. Maybe that suspension failure was a bit of a relief for Sebastian Vettel and put him out of his misery. I think it's a race that would have got worse for him in terms of pace the longer it went on.
No, it was a bit of an embarrassment, wasn't it, for Ferrari? Their pace just wasn't there on the race day, but still, we had a good race up front with Mercedes. But yeah, the question's still out there about how they're going to perform here in Interlagos after such a lacklustre performance in the United States.
It is still not that easy for the drivers out there, Johnny. We just saw Kimi Räikkönen getting all out of shape through the centre race.
Well, I think we're having that typical situation. One lap, soft tyre, does its job. You still can do a sort of a slow lap, have another go, and the tyre is still okay. It's when you are doing more laps that the tyre is really starting to struggle. It's starting to move around, floating. It's not doing what you want it to do. This is going to be the difficulty for them probably coming on Sunday. And that's what's good about this track. It tests you at a qualifying lap, and then it will test you the whole way through the race as well. Just get a balance. That's really the main idea that you need to have on a Sunday.
Ray says, shut up about penalties, etc. from Valtteri Bottas. It's only practice, for crying out loud. Makes no difference at all, making something out of nothing again. Ray, we were just answering a tweet. Calm down. Please, do calm down. And that was stupid, says Jack Pickering from Valtteri. However, if we look back to Q2 last year, Lewis didn't get a penalty for blocking Sirotkin. One more question to our young, inexperienced racing driver in the box at the moment, Damon Hill. James Collins says, what was it like driving the Arrows in 1997? As the car did improve during the year, nearly to a race-winning car. People just wanted to remind you today of all those nearly moments, and I'm sorry about that.
Well, the Arrows was a good car, but wasn't quite as good as the Williams. I think that's fair to say.
What was it? I mean, genuinely, on the first lap when you got in it, what did you think?
I thought, nice car, but it didn't really have, it wasn't easy to drive. In a car that's easy to drive, you do worry about, because it means there's no peak performance to it. You know, it wasn't much horsepower. No, it was a development car, really. I mean, it had a long way to go, and it did actually get better over the years, the Arrows, and but they weren't right up the sharp end. They didn't have the budget, and I don't think they had the horsepower either.
Are you glad you drove it?
No, well, I think I would have liked to have stayed with Williams and had another crack at a title, actually, if I'm honest. You know, that option wasn't available to me. But so it goes. I mean, I can't complain. I'm very happy with my results in Formula 1. That's it.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you, Dan.
Thank you, Johnny. I know you're very happy. And I did give you a chance there when I drove the Arrows.
Well, I still go back to that race we had at Silverstone in 2004. Remember we were when it crossed the line side by side? Yeah. They gave it to you. I still disagree with that decision there. You were always at
I wonder if Williams regret it, because Brenton only won one race.
That's a good point. We have very long memories, racing drivers. You notice we're actually like elephants, bitter elephants.
Well, in which case then, Jumbo, the time's up. Pack your trunk and trundle on to wherever you're trundling. Have you done enough research now? Are you okay now?
I've got it all up here, mate. I've got it all up here. I'm like a calculator.
Oh my lord! Just he's recharging his batteries a bit more often, David. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. We'll bring another special guest into the box in a moment. I'm liking this today. This is a lot of people coming into the commentary box. It's fun. Antonio Giovinazzi all on his own in the cockpit at the moment.
Losing power.
And he's got an issue where he's losing power. He might send Ted up to Alfa Romeo to see what's going on there. But Giovinazzi not getting all the power that he wants. Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc did, separated by 2/10, Ferrari 1 and 2. And the track falls quiet for a little while, with Giovinazzi limping back to the pits and Russell and Stroll out there at the moment. But I'm liking this. Vettel, Leclerc, Verstappen and Bottas. The top four, Johnny, separated by only a 1/10.5.
Yeah, good. Hopefully that's something we're going to see qualifying and on Sunday. I think there's a good chance of that. Ferrari look very good. The balance of the car looks absolutely spot on for them. Of course, we're going to see if Verstappen and the Mercedes are going to be able to sort of really take it to Ferrari. I would expect that to happen once we sort of see the engine sort of turn up, but Ferrari in the past have been able to achieve that qualifying speed. Can they do that tomorrow?
Well, they can win qualifying with Charles Leclerc. They can't get pole because he gets a 10th-place grid penalty for running a fourth internal combustion engine of the season. They can, of course, get pole with Sebastian Vettel, who has been on pole here in Interlagos before in 2013 and 2011.
Good form at the moment.
Well, since the summer break, Ferrari have done very nicely. Thank you very much indeed. When it comes to qualifying, Valtteri Bottas interrupted all that, of course, with pole in Austin the last time out. Now, I thought practice starts, having read the race director's notes, that you couldn't do a practice start if there was a car behind you. That's what the race director's notes said. But obviously, that's now been ignored.
But if you get there first and the car pulls up behind you, then what?
I don't know.
No, but I'm genuinely asking that confusingly. What would you do at that point?
Yeah,
just go.
I don't see there's any issue with sort of that. There's enough space for the other drivers.
I would
to
let
pass.
the drivers do practice starts anyway. Why do they need to practice their starts?
I would agree with you.
But they're stopping that, aren't they? That's one of the
exactly.
regulation changes.
Good. Something a little more random at the start of the race. We like that, right? So here's a theory. The Mercedes Ferrari could comfortably do quali 2 on medium tyres tomorrow because they have a pace delta difference that is enough. 109.7 on the mediums for Sebastian Vettel, 109.2 on the softs, 109.8 Charles Leclerc, 109.2 on the softs, Lewis Hamilton 109.8 on the mediums, 109.4 on the softs, and Valtteri Bottas at 110.6 went down to a 109.3.
Well, he was on the hard tyre, Bottas. But I mean, this track gives the teams nowhere to hide. You know, if you haven't got a car that's got downforce and got grip and in fact got power to punch up to the line, you're in trouble. You could see the gap between 5th and 6th there on the timesheet, 0.7 of a second for what is one of the shortest laps of the season. It just shows the difference between the haves and the have-nots of the top 3 teams.
It's a very good point. So it jumps quite alarmingly, but it's so closely packed in that midfield as well. So Kevin Magnussen is now starting his race simulations, and he is joined out there by the 2 Mercedes, his teammate at Haas, the 2 McLarens, George Russell and Pierre Gasly as well. We can head down to Ted.
At Alfa Romeo Sauber, where I'm investigating the suspicious loss of power on Antonio Giovinazzi's car. I'm just waiting to see if he's about to get out of the car. They've removed the headrest, which is normally a sure sign that the driver's about to pop out. But what they're also doing is fitting new opening up the cooling. They're fitting new cooling panels on the side of the car, just downstream of the driver's cockpit, to open up the cooling. So I'm just wondering whether the loss of power is an ancient thing. just saying that it's starting to get a bit hot. Now they're trying to put a little bit more cooling on the car. But no sign Giovinazzi is getting out. Sorry, is getting out at the moment. And all looks calmer down here than it did about a minute ago. So,
Ted, I don't know if you saw, Leclerc and that Mercedes can't see.
Valtteri Bottas.
Bottas, yeah, they got very close to comfort as they came out of the garage.
Right.
Seen all that before?
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the commentary box. Thank you, Ted. Welcome to the commentary box, our good friend from the Renault Formula One team, Mr. Jack Aitken. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
It's about time you came back to see us, but I know you've been really busy doing a lot of other things. This is Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas. How would you sort that out in F2? Go arm wrestle?
Fisticuffs,
You're right,
yeah.
Fisticuffs in the F2 paddock after style.
No, probably waving hands around as drivers like to do, you know.
I mean, we don't condone any sort of violence here, but Valtteri Bottas has had that coming to him all afternoon. The dawdling has been going on. Have you seen what's been happening out there?
Well, I think people are a bit harsh. The incident earlier on was probably more his engineer's fault than anything else, to be honest.
Yeah. That's it. Blame the engineer. You're ready for
Can
F1
you tell
as well.
what my job is? Yeah.
No, I like this. You're ready for F1. Engineering mistakes, engineers' faults all the time when a driver makes a mistake.
Blame everyone else and become a not very nice person. I think that's what I've been told. That's the steps to be an F1 driver.
Like that. So, bring us news from the Renault garage then. How's the day been going?
So, yeah, not bad. I think I actually missed our quali runs while I was making my way over here because it's been my trip.
Very fast.
They were very good, yeah. It looks not too bad. I mean, Nico had a small issue in FP1 which we had to resolve, but he's got back some decent laps now. And yeah, we've seen probably a bigger step from the hard tyre than we were expecting. It's not quite as close to the medium as we thought, but yeah, pretty good.
I think Daniel's race in Austin, we talked about this morning, was one of the best ones of the season. I thought he was very, very strong. Had to do a long stint, didn't he, on the strategy really on the first stint, and managed to make it work for him. Did you think, or does the team think that was certainly one of his better drives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that all came from the foundation of having a really good start and getting those positions on lap 1. And from there, he was really able to execute and use the pace that he had. But absolutely, you're right, he managed the tyres really well. And he looked fairly comfortable the whole way through, just managing the gap to the McLarens. And yeah, it was a solid drive.
So, Abu Dhabi to come for you this season. It's been a winning season, hasn't it, for you? It's been a good season.
A few times, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to finish off with a win?
That's the plan, yeah. I would like to get another feature race win under my belt. Would like to be on pole. I haven't ticked that box yet. So, yeah, preparations just getting underway now. It's been a long time since I've been in a Formula 2 car, though, so feels that way anyway.
Yeah. Where do you think you can get in the standings in Abu Dhabi to get sort of that pole and one of the wins anyway?
P3 is possible, yeah. Well, P2 is mathematically possible, right. But Nicky, who's in P2, would have to have a lot of bad luck. So, yeah, aiming for P3, which is in our reach.
That'd be worth celebrating at the end of the year, wouldn't it?
Yeah, top 3, I think, considering where we started from and the fact that we're up against some pretty big teams. You know, Campos, we've worked really well together to get the car to where it is, and that would be a good reward for the guys, I think.
And if I was Cyril Abiteboul and I had a young driver finishing top 3 in F2, I would give him an F1 driver next season. But inexplicably, the French team principal of the French, you know, car company-backed Formula 1 team has gone for the Frenchman in the drive next year. I'm not saying there's any connection in that whatsoever.
I can be French.
You can learn.
I can learn. Yeah. No, I think.
Pardon Del Boy. Pardon We can all do that.
No, it's exciting to see Esteban coming. I mean, obviously, I would love to have been in contention for that seat, but it makes a lot of sense. I think for the team, we want to have a big year in the next couple of years. The regulations coming, and it's you know, it's just one of those things. I'm going to do as well as I can this last race of the year, and in whatever I do next year, and we'll see what happens after that.
So are your options open for lots of series for next year, or is it going back to F2 an idea?
I could do truck racing, lawnmower racing.
Renault used to be in truck racing, I think.
Maybe I can convince them.
There you go.
What's the matter?
I've just spotted that sponsor on the side of the also. It says Moose Krav hot dogs.
That's been there a while.
Can we please look at this engine braking? It's again happening now.
So, and is he talking about the brake-by-wire system, or is this something else?
No, it's the engine overrun setting,
Right.
as I was saying before. They have different maps for the amount of engine overrun and support on the rear end. Yeah, I didn't notice the hot dog part before.
It's unlike you not to notice a hot dog.
Well, you're a man who loves his food. I think you'd be all over it.
Oh, we have been for weeks. Don't worry about that one.
Yeah, that engine braking, by the way, is sort of stability sort of under in the latter part of braking that really does sort of come into effect. So again, if it's just giving you a bit too much, of course, then the rear end is always going to be a bit loose. But it's interesting.
Engine 14, position 1. Engine 1-4, position 1. I'll have feedback on the engine braking.
So there will be Honda technicians at the back of the garage. Yep, we could see the problem. This is the setting that you now need to put it all right. And of course, Jack, at high speed, it's really easy to find all that on your steering wheel while you're trying to get around the corners.
No, you get used to it pretty quickly. It sounds like, because we call it different things in different teams, but engine braking is something that the drivers play with quite a lot. It's a really good balance tool along with the differential that we use a lot. But that sounded like it was a setting deeper in the engine, maybe a bit more fundamental that they were changing.
No investigation necessary. You will have seen between Leclerc and Bottas, who are just going to arm wrestle at the end of the day. Just to go back to you, truck racing, no. Lawnmower racing, dangerous. We've seen Johnny do that, no. So a bit of F2, win the championship, come into F1 the year after. We're mapping out your career.
Yeah. It sounds like pretty good career map to me, so
just think about us as Mr. and Mr. 10% each.
Are we doing that again?
Yeah, we are. Oh, absolutely.
We've tried that, it never worked.
I see. We just got Latifi to sign the contract when he came in. He doesn't know the terms and conditions. Too much of a hurry as he went back.
He just trusts you guys.
Oh dear, oh dear. Honda engine looks like it has gone on Pierre Gasly's Toro Rosso.
Engine problem, engine problem.
It's smoking away.
Yeah, smoke coming out of the air intake is never a good sign, is it?
And the virtual safety car has obviously been deployed as he parks up right at the side of the track on the pit lane exit.
We're going to see a lot of this, I think, Crofty, both here and in Abu Dhabi on the Friday, because the engines are so up on mileage.
Yeah.
They're just dragging them out to the end of the year now. You know, the Friday engines in particular, they're using the oldest, highest mileage ones. We're going to see a few more go pop, I think.
Yeah,
between here and Abu Dhabi.
It's pretty standard procedure up and down the pit line, I think, to, like you say, have the pretty tired engines in on Friday and then you swap in the fresh one overnight.
Without giving numbers away, and I don't know if you're party to these details because you do go along to the briefings, but is there a number of laps that the Renault guys at Renault, the engine guys, say we can do this without any problems whatsoever today, but we can't do any more because we've got to get Abu Dhabi out of the way as well?
I think it's always up to best estimates. It looks like he just completely lost drive there. Actually, it's pretty instantaneous. And that sounds pretty rough. Not changing gear either. But yeah, they will try to be as exact as they can. I mean, we have mileage markers and things like that, but at the end of the day, you can't account for everything. There's a million factors going into what makes these things go pop. So they'll give it their best guess, but as you can see, it's not always gonna be exactly right.
That's Pierre Gasly's day done as he heads back to the Toro Rosso garage. Ted, down to you.
I don't suppose we should be surprised. The Toro Rossos lead the field on engine failures or replacements with 7 each. For first of all Danny Kvyat's car, and then secondly Gasly stroke Albon's car. They've got through 7, haven't they, Crofty? For various reasons. Part of them not to do with reliability, part of them, there was 1 or 2 to do with upgrades, weren't there? So maybe it's not fair to say that, but yeah, it looks like there'll be, perhaps that number will go up to 8, and it won't be just Leclerc taking a penalty, but I'll get the latest from Toro Rosso as soon as I can. Quick line on Lando Norris. You might be asking yourself, everybody, why is he down there languishing in 18th?
Ted, why is Lando Norris down at 18th at the moment?
Because he couldn't get his quickest lap together on the brand new soft tyres, got a bit of traffic, and so that lap time is not representative. He's now just abandoned trying to get his way up the order to focus on race runs.
Which is a bit of a shame for Lando there, and Carlos Sainz not doing too bad early. What was he, 10th fastest? But both McLaren drivers have been saying a bit of a quirk about our car. We're very good over a single lap, and that pace doesn't necessarily translate into the race.
It's so tight though, that pack. Look at, you know, from Magnussen in 6th down to Stroll in 17th. It's only 0.4 of a second. In midfield, you know, to get the one lap right in qualifying, make sure your tyres and brakes, everything's hooked up at the right temperature, and you get the lap hooked up, is going to be so important. I mean, it could be probably the difference between Q1 and Q3, frankly.
Yeah.
If, you know, just not putting the laps together, the midfield pack.
Yeah, and the great thing about it as well, of course, it's a mental strength as well.
Yeah.
Knowing how close it is, knowing that you cannot make a mistake. That's the testing things that we need from these drivers.
And if you look as well, it's fairly congested in terms of points.
It is.
So it's that tight on the track, and the difference between 6th and 7th or 15th and 16th could be a chunk of points in the race, Jack, which the teams are counting on the drivers to deliver because points make prizes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big factor in budgets going on for the next year, obviously, and how much of that you can put into developing the car. So, yeah, but fortunately, I think for ourselves, Renault, we're looking pretty safe, I would say, from behind, touch wood, saving any disasters, but we've got enough of a gap, I think, over Toro Rosso and Sport Pacer. Racing Point.
Well, yeah, the Racing Point have gone a point ahead of Toro Rosso now as well. I've done a Haas, and I'm trying to do some digging as to their season and the difference in prize money. So obviously 5th last year, their best season in Formula 1. At the moment, 9th and looking like they're going to stay 9th. That's about $15 million worth of losses in prize money compared to this year, which is a lot of money for a small team like Haas, who, yes, Gene Haas has a different model the way they go racing to any other team. You don't want to be losing $15 million.
Well, no, you don't, especially when you're sort of, you know, struggling like they are at the present time. They've got to sort of reinvest to try and get themselves sort of further up the pack. So yeah, that money is massively important to how development of these cars and how fast it happens.
Tedos, down to you.
Nico Hülkenberg's in a hurry, even though he might be tumbling out of F1 at the end of the season. He's just done a pit stop, a practice pit stop, where he's taken off the red tyres and put the yellow tyres on to do a run on mediums. And as he went away, pulled away, he boffed the front jack. Oh. The mechanic with the front jack, who was trying to get it out of the way, obviously wasn't in race mode himself, because they normally have to pull it away pretty smartly, don't they, guys? You see that in the Grand Prix. The front jack man sort of pulled away the front jack in a kind of, oh, well, it's only Friday kind of way. Hülkenberg was gone and gave the front jack a little tap with his front left wheel. Nothing serious, but noteworthy down here. Who's this, a Haas?
It is a Haas of Romain Grosjean. Going off the...
Still the old front wing.
Yes.
On there, guys.
Yeah. They Gunther Steiner openly admits it. They have gone the wrong way over on the aero this year.
It feels a bit like McLaren last year, wasn't it? But they arrived with the car, and then they put a load of bits on it and went no way faster. And at some point they just thought, you know what, forget it. Let's just abandon this year's car and focus on 19. And it's worked wonders for them. They're a clear 4th in the Constructors' Championship from being... I mean, at times last year, they were the slowest car.
Yes.
If you think of Suzuka, you know, Sirotkin was out qualifying Fernando Alonso, with no disrespect to Sergei Sirotkin. He's not... You'd never rate him as high as Fernando Alonso. So it shows that turnarounds are possible.
Good laps, good laps. How's the tyre now?
Still good.
Not a phrase you hear Kevin Magnussen say very often when talking about tyre wear in 2019. So on the qualifying simulations, Sebastian Vettel, Charles Leclerc separated by 2/100ths of a second. Max Verstappen, 10th of Sebastian Vettel. Valtteri Bottas, a 10th down, 10th and a half down. He's just pitting to get rid of the soft tyres and go onto the mediums. Lewis Hamilton a little further off, 2/10ths back, and we'll give you all the averages of the race runs in a moment. Carlos Sainz currently 10th fastest, and with a 1:14.5. What's his race pace like? Have you been? I don't know if you've been watching this intently, Jack, or not, in the McLaren-Renault battle. Who's got the better race pace at the moment?
I mean, intently would maybe be overemphasizing things a little bit. A quick scan, though.
This is why we brought you up here. We thought,
To stare at
concentrate on the
numbers.
midfield, you'll be fine.
You should know better than to ask that of a driver. I'm just going to have a quick scan here. So Ricardo and Daniel on a 1:14.4, and Hulk is on a 1:14.2. That's pretty good for, well, he's on the new mediums. And where are the McLarens? Let's have a look.
He's on the screen.
No, it's 14.3. And can you tell I'm experienced at this commentary malarkey? Yeah.
Do you have someone in the garage tell you how to read a time screen?
I really should. I should have someone standing next to me at all times. Well, my conclusion, after staring at the timing screen very intently, is that we're pretty close together.
Very good. And I think you're actually right.
It's worth every bit of the money we're not paying him to be here, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And it's probably not going to be decided until the checkered flag falls on Sunday.
That's even better.
Jack's top tips. That should be a new feature on Sky.
Jack's top tips. Don't eat the yellow stuff. Yeah, all of the above. We did actually have a question a while back saying what's harder, commentating or doing the social media for Renault as Valtteri Bottas goes off. Have you been tweeting all of them?
I was in charge of tweeting this morning in the garage, yeah. It was very, very stressful, actually, because usually I'm not really allowed to tweet during sessions, but they gave me control of the F1 account, and not putting up anything rude / secret / things that are not in line with the image of Renault. It's a pretty hard job.
And also the key point, you've got to tweet things that are interesting, don't you? You can't just say, cars come in. Nico is now on yellow tyres. Nico is now on red tyres. I mean, you've got to be interesting. What did you say? Let's have a look.
Well, I might go into the Renault Twitter account and have a look at this.
A couple of selfies. Selfies are always a win in the world of social media, I figured. Caio Colette, our fellow Academy driver, was there with me as well to offer a friendly face. Did some Q&As. Yeah, just had a good time.
Caio. Johnny thought his first name was pronounced Chow.
Yeah, but Johnny thought he's called Atticus for
exactly. There was many. There were many versions.
Chow is a much better name. I'm going
Look at this. Not much occurring, waiting for the track to dry. And he's got like a photo of him looking a bit glum because not much is occurring. Well, do send in some questions if you want to know anything. Yes. What's the capital of Kenya?
You'll have to wait till I research that after the break.
That's what I want to know. What's the capital of Kenya?
What do you think I am, Croft? You're walking encyclopedia?
Someone who's done geography way more recently than I did. 10 minutes to go in this session. Jack Aiken is with us in the commentary box. He spent all morning tweeting and now loving the fact that we can ask him questions in the commentary box and he can give us answers. So we've got a brilliant question for you in a couple of moments, but to Christian Horner first, who can tell us really what's been going on down at Red Bull. Christian, the guys thought that you might be lacking a little bit of power on the straight towards the end of the lap, which might be your Achilles heel in qualifying. Is that a fair point?
Yeah, the Ferraris are pretty mighty again in straight line speed compared to the Mercedes and the Honda. It's about 0.7 of a second. So yeah, in this session they got really very strong in those sectors.
Christian, do you think 0.7 of a second is a massive amount on such a short lap, isn't it?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Alex Albon, what's going on with him?
Almost as short as that answer, to be fair.
Alex Albon down in 9th. What do you reckon?
He didn't get a good run on the road.
I can't really hear that well.
He had a lock-up on the first lap and that compromised the rest of his lap. So I think 9th's representative of where you know, his potential is. I think he would have been you know, sort of a mid 1 minute 9 he should have been capable of doing. So not too worried about that. And he's obviously now at his long runs on the medium tyre.
Now they looking, Christian. Actually, those long runs from Alex at the moment don't look too bad.
Absolutely, he's working away at it and you know, feeling his way down. Max has just done a decent run as well on the soft tyre. So of course all the data comes in now and will be poured over tonight and analysed. And of course the track temperature is a little bit cooler than what we're expecting to get on Sunday.
Yes, which is great because it forces teams to think on their feet a little bit, Christian. And we often get unpredictable, exciting races when Friday bears little resemblance to conditions on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton looks quick on the race run. If you look at his run, it looks pretty decent. But yeah, it's going to be very different conditions on Sunday. And this track, I mean, even though it's a short lap, it does produce good races. And you know, hopefully we'll get a nice close one on Sunday.
And Christian, we saw Pierre Gasly's engine, or it sounded like his engine went pop earlier in that session. Obviously, similar power unit for you guys. Everything's a bit tired, I imagine, at this stage of the season. Any concerns going into the last couple of races on that?
Well, it's unknown what caused that at the moment, so there's been no, you know, panic signals here to say we need to reduce or do anything different. So I'm sure again they'll get all the data and all the bits back tonight, understand what the cause of him to pull over was.
Christian, thank you. Great to have you with us this weekend. Now, Jamie Foster at #SkyF1. Jack Aitken, you are the authority on this one, says, now it's coming to the end of the year. Who is your rookie of the year? Very tough question, I think. Rookie of the year. We'll put Giovinazzi into that category as well, because he might have had a couple of races before. This is his first full season. So, candidates, please, and Jack can have the final say.
I've got to say Lando. I think he's pushed Carlos hard. He's, yes, in the second half of the year, he's dropped away a little bit from Carlos, but if we're talking about rookie of the year, then we need to look at, everything from Melbourne.
Yeah.
And he arrived very competitively. He's been up there. So I'd go with Lando as rookie of the year.
Yeah, the man I'm going to go for, because I think he's been consistent all the way through the year. He's been able to sort of, make the team move in a very small way forward on the grid. George Russell, I think it's been very impressive what he's done. Okay, in a Williams at the back, but I have to say he's done a grand job.
Well, I'm going to totally disagree with you both and say Alex Albon, who has finished in the top 6 for every single race for Red Bull. Will be finishing 6th in the championship, despite the fact that he started the season at Toro Rosso, deserved his promotion, barely put a foot wrong, and I'm not even being told by his mum, Johnny, that I have to say that. Unlike you. Oh dear. That is the other Toro Rosso of Daniel Kvyat. Now, is that fire, and there's a red flag on this session as well, is that fire caused by the car stopping rather suddenly and it overheating, or is that another engine-related problem for Toro Rosso?
All I know is that, Marsh.
Okay, jump out, there is fire at the back, jump out.
Yes, that marshal needs to get this fire extinguisher going as soon as possible. Puts the steering wheel back in, and he is going to get out. Right, so Ted Kravitz, very quickly, Rookie of the Year before we see a replay.
Rookie of the Year? Well, for keeping his head and delivering under pressure, Alex Albon, but George Russell, for all the performance of the Williams has masked what a great job he's done this year. So I'll split it between them. Just going to go back down to Toro Rosso. When I asked about Pierre Gasly, they said they didn't know at the moment. They'd have to go get the car back to check.
Right, so Ted, we are just looking at Daniel Kvyat. That was
off on oil.
A sudden stop. So he's dipped a wheel onto the curb, and he's gone down exactly the same slope that Alex Albon went down earlier today.
And maybe he's just broken his own oil line, which has caused the fire, maybe.
Possibly. Corinne and I were just looking there, and it looks like the engine's just cut going into the corner there and completely died, because the dash was off as well when he came to a stop.
I think the engine was off as he was sliding, unless, somewhere the audio's gone off, but it did sound like he had a shutdown, and therefore no engine braking or whatever as he turned into the corner.
It looked like it wasn't on the curb, wasn't on the white line either, so...
Very strange,
Very strange.
It was a sudden stop. It could be an engine problem.
Yeah, well, it could be.
It definitely was a fire.
With the smoke, sometimes, quite rare nowadays, you can have oil go onto the tyres as well.
Jack Aitken, Rookie of the Year.
I'm glad I've had such a variety of candidates come up there. I thought it was going to be harder than that. No, I think my Rookie of the Year, probably Lando, just because he was so impressive in the first half of the year, which I don't think many people were expecting to see. The session will not be restarted.
Not a surprise on that one. Right, vote goes then to Lando. Norris, you can keep the tweets coming. I tell you what, when we reconvene for FP1 in Abu Dhabi, we'll have this conversation again. Yeah, he did lose power. It did completely cut out.
Yeah.
It was gradual, and then a bit like one of the worst fades on a record ever. It just went completely.
Yeah, and when you get a complete shutdown like that, I'm not sure the exact extent of it, obviously, but lots of weird things can start happening, particularly with the brakes, with it being brake by wire, because it did look like the rear axle just completely locked up there.
Well, the diff, the power steering, the brakes, all of that is controlled now by the electronics. Really.
We'll give you some averages in a minute on the race runs and tell you who's looking good and who's looking not at the top. I think it is very, very competitive in that midfield, very close together, and it certainly is over the single lap pace. Once again, this is Pierre Gasly.
That was a different one. That you heard it go bang.
That was a proper bang.
You heard a bang. That was a proper old school bang from the Johnny Herbert race day.
Very deep. That was very deep inside.
That keeps Johnny awake at night, that sort of noise.
Anybody awake, that one.
You don't want to be that guy, do you, really?
No, you don't.
He's got twice the job on his hands that he thought he would have had about 20 minutes ago.
Well, the only
an awful lot of work to do tonight. A lot of fire extinguisher spray has gone on the back of that car, and Daniel is still down there.
The only positive for them is they would probably have been changing those units anyway, wholesale tonight.
But they won't be using them for Abu Dhabi, not now. Lewis Hamilton, 8 laps, 1:13.3. 7 laps for Verstappen, 1:13.5. Vettel, 9 laps, 1:13.6. Bottas, 6 laps, 1:13.9. And on the mediums, Charles Leclerc, 1:13.7 over 10 laps, holding up very well. But once again, Mercedes, Red Bull, better race pace, it seems, than the Ferrari, who have better qualifying pace. So the fastest race car might not be starting at the front, you'd have thought.
That's still smouldering. They need to get the extinguisher in there somewhere, because that's still going.
And I think that off is related to that. There is obviously, I think, some fluid that has come out onto the tyre. That's why it's gone off, because otherwise you wouldn't be any smoke. It's just been an off. It was a little nudge. That's it. That looks much more worse.
Much more worse?
More worse.
Worse, right?
Much more worse, yes. I'm not adding to it. Oh, shut up, you two. You're so perfect, you two.
Smouldering Toro Rosso.
Like a hot dog stand.
It is.
Like a Kraft Moose hot dog.
Yeah, that's Kraft. I think the Moose also make Kraft other products that you can't advertise in Brazil. Some of our viewers are saying. The Moose name has been on there for a while. That's the fire extinguisher. It needs a little bit more. Pierre Gasly's car is parked up. This has been a disastrous end to the session for Toro Rosso. Daniel Kvyat, who doesn't look impressed. Jack, why are you laughing at Daniel Kvyat in the background?
His face, he looks so unhappy. Well, I shouldn't be that surprised.
It's just his face, he looks so unhappy, so I'll laugh at
his
him.
car's on fire, man.
Yeah, but you know, they can fix that. They can fix anything in F1.
They can. Well, they're going to have to fix that as well. That's how we started the session, with Robert Kubica going off at the Curve of the Sol. Quite a spectacular way. Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel, fastest in the session. He's the Ferrari that won't get a 10-place grid penalty for this race. It's his teammate, Charles Leclerc, who will be getting that penalty on the grid. Jack, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure as always.
And good luck in the final race in Abu Dhabi. We will be cheering you on.
Thank you.
And cheering on Nicholas Latifi as well, who we are very grateful to for coming up. Oh, we'll cheer you both on.
Yeah, come on. He's basically already got his F1 drive. He doesn't need any more
go Nicky, go Jackie, go Nicky.
Where's the sympathy vote?
Where's the sympathy vote? So did you say he's already got his drive at Formula One?
Probably.
With who?
McLaren?
Honestly, we were trying to prize the information out of him. Nothing forthcoming at all.
I'm sure your imagination can do the rest.
Outrageous it was. Max Verstappen finishes 3rd fastest on the day. 10th and a bit down on Sebastian Vettel. Charles Leclerc a couple of hundredths down on his teammate. I'm rather liking this. Congested, tight, all to play for, and possibly the fastest race car, not the car that you will see on pole position. Anything can happen come qualifying, but the Ferrari wasn't the fastest car on race pace, but it certainly was over a single lap. Sebastian Vettel then ahead of his teammate Verstappen, Bottas and Hamilton, completing the top 5. Good lap from Kevin Magnussen to get that Haas into the top 6. Daniel Ricciardo up there as well, only 5/100ths difference between Magnussen and Ricciardo. Kimi Raikkonen on the weekend, where he ties Fernando Alonso as the second most experienced Formula 1 driver, was 8th ahead of Alex Albon. Carlos Sainz in 10th. Lando Norris just didn't get the lap together, didn't get representative time on the soft compound tyre. Robert Kubica crashed, as we saw earlier, and a horror show for Toro Rosso, with both Pierre Gasly and Daniel Kvyat retiring from the session with what looks like engine issues. Long night ahead for those at Honda.